What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So today we have a stimulus package update, and we're going to talk about three things today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, Johnson & Johnson, they have paused their trials, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about poll numbers. We got to talk about poll numbers. So Biden is up right now. He's been up for this whole time. We're going to look at Real Clear Politics. We're going to talk a little bit about this because it's really important that we look at the polls right now, because that will dictate a lot of what's going on right now. And it's dictating a lot of what's going on when it comes to the stimulus package. And then we're going to talk about Mitch McConnell. So Mitch McConnell, he put out some information today letting us know, hey, guess what? There's going to be a vote next week, and it's going to be on a stimulus package. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, please hit that like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out videos. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about is Johnson & Johnson. So they have paused their trials. So they're in the later stages of their trials, and they went ahead and paused it because one of the recipients got ill. And it's unexplained illness, so they don't know what's going on. So right now they're going to pause and try to figure out what's going on when it comes to that, when it comes to the vaccine. So that is going to slow that process down. And so we're looking at this. We know that the president is really trying to push this out before the election because he thinks that it will really help him, and it probably will. But we're seeing some hiccups. We're seeing some problems that are arising. And so when it comes down to it, we're probably not going to see a vaccine until next year anyway. But the talk was, the president was really trying to pump this up and say, we're going to have a vaccine before the election. So we'll see where it goes when it comes down to it. We only have 3 weeks before the election. So that's probably not going to happen. But even still, even if there is a vaccine, it's going to take a little time before people are able to get access to the vaccine and all that. So it's not one of those things that even if we had a vaccine today, it's still going to take time, and you're going to have a lot of people that aren't going to be able to get that vaccine before the election. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about are the poll numbers. So Biden right now is up by 10, and that's according to Real Clear Politics. They average all the polls. Okay, so the major polls, they will average all the polls. So Biden is now in double digits when it comes to an average of all the polls, and he's up double digits in the majority of the polls that are out. And this is interesting because usually at this time, you see the poll numbers really start to close in. So the fact that they're starting to expand even more is pretty astonishing. And so we'll have to see where it goes. And I know people, they continue to say, well, the polls were wrong in 2016. The polls were off very, very slightly in 2016 because most of the polls were within the margin of error. So President Trump could have won anyway. But when you're looking at a double-digit lead 3 weeks before an election, that's a large number. Okay, so I don't think the polls are going to be off that much. It's clear that Biden is ahead of Trump at this point, and Trump knows it. That's why the desperation is there, and he's starting to push for different things like stimulus checks and all that stuff. He's mentioned it before, but now it's like whatever it takes, however much money you guys need, we'll go ahead and provide that. That's pretty much where he is. All right, so the next story, the last story we want to talk about today, is Mitch McConnell. So Mitch McConnell mentioned earlier today that when it comes to the skinny bill, we're going to bring that back on the table. So it's not going to be the same skinny bill, but it's going to have some of the same stuff in it. And so he wants to present that to the Senate next week and have a vote on it next week. So this is interesting. And as soon as he put this information out to the public, guess what? President Trump put out a tweet. And here's the tweet. It says, stimulus, go big or go home. And so this is obviously directed to Mitch McConnell, right at Mitch McConnell, right? And so we know President Trump and the White House, they came with the $1.8 trillion. Nancy Pelosi, she rejected that. And so now it looks like the senators are rejecting it as well. And so they're coming up with another skinny bill. We'll talk a little bit about what is said to be in this skinny bill. So it's said to be $500 billion. And it's going to have unemployment assistance. It's going to have more money for schools. It's going to have more money for healthcare and testing. It's going to have new funding for the PPP program, so the Paycheck Protection Program. And then it's going to have liability protection. So those are the things. Now, you didn't hear me say stimulus checks, because stimulus checks, it doesn't look like they're going to be in this proposal. The proposal is only $500 billion. I say only $500 billion, but it's $500 billion. You need at least $300 billion for stimulus checks. So that's the main reason why it's not in there. So this is going to be interesting. And I've said all along, you have Nancy Pelosi on one side holding things up, but you also have Senate Republicans on the other side holding things up. It's like a tug of war. You have Nancy Pelosi, the anchor on one side, the GOP senators, the Republican senators, the anchor on the other side, and then you have everybody else in between. The White House is somewhere in between there, trying to figure something out. But when it comes down to it, you have Senate Republicans that do not want another stimulus package, and they're letting that be known. They're not even listening to the president. The president is the leader of the Republican Party, and they're not even listening to him. Mitch McConnell is not even listening to the president. The president says $1.8 trillion, that's what we want. And then what does Mitch McConnell do? He says, oh, you know what? $500 billion, we're going to do a skinny bill. We'll vote on it next week. It's crazy. So not only are the Republicans fighting against the Democrats, the Republicans are fighting against the White House in an election year, 3 weeks before an election. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is crazy. It's a crazy situation. And I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore when it comes down to it. They're going to try to push this skinny bill through. Nancy Pelosi already said it's dead on arrival. It's not going to go anywhere. And so the reality is we're not going to see anything before the election, because they're still trying to put out these little bills instead of going big, right? And going big, Trump he wants to go big, that's for sure. And so he sees the fact that, hey, I'm down in the polls. This is pretty much the only thing that's going to help me at this point. So if he can't get senators to come on board, which it looks like they're not coming on board. I know the president said, yeah, you know what, they'll probably come on board. Kayleigh McEnany said, oh yeah, they'll probably, she believes that they'll probably come on board. Well, they're not coming on board, and they're letting the White House know, look, we're not for this $1.8 trillion. That's why we're going for the $500 billion. So I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this whole thing? What do you think about Mitch McConnell bringing this to the floor next week? I mean, do you think it's a waste of time? The way I look at it, yeah, it's a waste of time. It doesn't even have stimulus checks in it. So a lot of people are looking at it like, hey, what happened to the stimulus checks? They're gone, right? And you kind of see what the priority is. And they tried this already, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and try it again. What they need is that they're going to need all 53 Senate Republicans, and then they're going to need 7 of the Democrats in order to make this happen. They need 60 votes in order to keep from having a debate on it. And so I don't see 7 Democrats crossing party lines and voting for this. I just don't see it happening. But let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.